Let's take a look at Scott's Tout Wars draft up next on Fantasy Baseball Today in 5. Welcome into FBT in 5. Today is Thursday, March 9th. I am Frank Sample, joined by Scott White. And let's take a look at your Tout Wars draft. 15-team mixed 5x5 Roto with OBP instead of batting average with standard Roto lineup. Scott was picking 15, so he was at the wheel at the turn. And Scott, you went with the Padres stack, Fernando Tatis Jr. and Manny Machado with your first two picks. Is this what you were hoping for all along?
Well, it wasn't because they played for the Padres, but yes, I had the option of picking anywhere from 8th through 15th. I chose 15th because in a 15-team league, I thought that was the only way I could be sure I'd get one of the stud third basemen that I think is so critical to get, especially in an OBP league, because two of the fallback options I like, Alex Bregman, Max Muncy, are going to get pulled way up. And sure enough, they did. Bregman went in round 3. Muncy went in round 6. So I had my choice between Machado and Devers for that third baseman. I went with Machado this time because Devers' advantages are less in an OBP league. Machado walks a little more, and Machado has a chance to contribute some steals. Plus, I just like to diversify. I got a lot of Devers already, and it's a narrow margin between the two. And I always wanted to pair him with Fernando Tatis. That was exactly who I was hoping I could pair with the third baseman because I want to go outfielder in round 1, especially in a 5 outfielder league. And Tatis already has that outfield eligibility in Tout Wars. He's going to get it soon in CBS leagues, soon after he returns. But I was able to plug him in there. And of course, he has huge first round upside. Kind of risky, of course. Going to go the first 3 weeks without him. But I think even missing those 3 weeks, he has the potential to go 40-30. And only he and Acuna could possibly do that.
Scott, you took Shane McClanahan with the first pick of round 4. Did you plan to take a starting pitcher there? I know typically you like to wait in drafts that we've done together, or did you just not really love the hitters that were available?
Yeah, it's more the latter. I had hoped to go with at least 4 hitters to start out the draft. But, kind of a recurring theme is picking 15th, although I got the stud third baseman I wanted. I didn't have a lot of control over my team otherwise because you're waiting 28 picks between your pair of picks. You can't anticipate that much what's still going to be there. And so I didn't want to – I was careful not to get too clever ever and just take the guys who I was supposed to take, which mostly worked out in terms of category distribution. Position distribution, I think I'm a little thin in the outfield, but – I'd hoped to take like Kyle Schwarber in round 3 to prevent that. He didn't make it to me. And I was going to pair him with a hitter maybe like Ozzie Albies, who I actually took in round 3. Instead, I went Albies and McClanahan. The hitter I would have considered taking there was Corbin Carroll, who was an outfielder, of course, and is an outfielder. And I think is going to be a better OBP source than people realize. But with McClanahan there and not knowing what starting pitcher would look like after 28 more picks, I thought that was being too cute. Because I wound up thin in the outfield, I kind of wonder if I still should have taken Carroll, but it was nice to have probably a better ace than I'm going to have on most of my teams this year.
Yeah, and I think based on the pitchers that came back to you at the 5-6 turn, I think you wound up doing the right thing in hindsight, taking Shane McClanahan where you did. Let's talk about a few other picks. You wound up with Luis Robert at pick 75 and Salvador Perez at pick 105, both lower OBP bats. Typically, I think a lot of us play in batting average league, Scott, but how did you weigh when to take a lower OBP bat that was kind of falling down the draft board, someone like Robert and Salvador Perez?
Again, I didn't think too hard about it. And this is a struggle for me in these OBP leagues because there are few players who really excel at OBP. There are fewer who excel at OBP than excel at batting average, I would say. And they all go for a premium. And meanwhile, it allows these types of guys to fall. I mean, Luis Roberts, 75th overall, base stealer at a thin position. That's amazing value. And Salvador Perez, I took him outside the top 100. He's the only catcher who has a chance at 100 RBI probably, and is probably going to lead the position in home runs too. So really valuable player, even despite the low OBP. But it just, like I said, I kind of just had to take whatever came to me, and the OBP guys never came to me. So I think it would have been foolish not to take advantage of the discounts of these other players, Robert and Perez. I imagine OBP is going to be my worst hitter category, but I don't think I'm going to finish last in it. And I think there's a chance I could finish closer to the middle than not.
Yeah, and I think a good point with Roto Leagues is you could finish in the middle of the pack in some of your categories as long as you're in the top 3 or 4 in a bunch of them. So it's not impossible to not punt a category, but you could be bad at a category and still wind up winning your Roto Leagues. If you want to read more about Scott's Tout Wars team, you could do so. CBSSports.com/fantasy/baseball. For more extensive fantasy baseball coverage, listen to the Fantasy Baseball Today podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, the Audacy app, or anywhere else podcasts are found. Thanks for listening to Fantasy Baseball Today in 5, and we'll be back again tomorrow. Bye-bye.